If you like this video, please press the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel, and also give it a thumbs up. According to the Bible, all human beings that have ever lived are descended from one man and one woman. According to universal common descent evolution, this could not be the case. In fact, our species should have evolved with a population of at least 1 million or so. To the surprise of everyone but biblical creationists, genetic evidence has not only shown that the entire human race is indeed descended from a single woman, but direct measurements of mutation rates show that she lived about 6,000 years ago. Now, of course, evolutionists deny the timeline, and they deny that she was the only woman alive, but they are forced to acknowledge her existence even if they push her back more than 100,000 years. One pair of sex chromosomes, which determine whether a child is a male or a female, and mitochondrial DNA, which we only get from our mothers. This is the fact that makes mitochondrial DNA perfect for tracing female ancestry. One pair of sex chromosomes, which determine whether a child is a male or a female, and mitochondrial DNA, which we only get from our mothers. This is the fact that makes mitochondrial DNA perfect for tracing female ancestry. According to the theory behind universal common descent evolution, evolution takes place on a population level. So we would be descended from a population of perhaps 1 million individuals who had common ancestors with the great apes such as chimps, gorillas, and orangutan, and these groups separated gradually over time. They would not expect our DNA to go back to an original couple. Not even our mitochondrial DNA was expected by evolutionists to go back to a single woman. This was a big surprise, but Christians, and particularly biblical creationists, were not surprised but delighted at what is evidence for the existence of Eve. Now, evolutionists immediately attacked the conclusion that this was evidence for the existence of the biblical Eve. They pointed out that from their theoretical perspective, she would not have been the only woman alive, but just the only woman whose mitochondrial line has survived. Now, this should not have occurred, but it does help give them a way out of another problem, and that is the problem of time. When direct measurements are made of the mutation rate in human mitochondrial DNA, the time when this woman lived comes to just about 6,000 years, making her consistent with being the biblical Eve. The way evolutionists get around this little problem is to claim that it took extra time for individual mutations to take hold in the existing population. What they did to obscure the idea that mitochondrial Eve is actually the biblical Eve was calculate the rate of change based on the assumption that we had a common ancestor with chimpanzees about 5 million years ago. Based on this assumption, they calculated that mitochondrial Eve lived around 150,000 years ago, making it easier to dismiss the idea that she was the biblical Eve. In conclusion, when you start with Adam and Eve as the first couple, and the population growing from them, the observed mitochondrial differences and mutation rate fit perfectly with the biblical Eve. It is strong evidence not only for the biblical account and timescale, but it is also an example of evolutionary presuppositions getting in the way of real science and obscuring evidence in support of the biblical account.